This episode of Bookworm is brought to you by Vitally, your co-pilot for AI-powered customer success. Get a free pair of AirPods Pro when you book a qualified meeting at vitally.io/bookworm.
All right, Mike. It's good to be back. We are going to talk about geniuses today. But before we talk about our geniuses today, we need to talk about follow-up. Or maybe we don't need to talk about follow-up because we have no follow-up because we had no action items coming out of the last book. And that's follow-up. I do have a thing that I want to talk to you about because you and I have been dabbling around with this back and forth. I made Claude and Claude Cowork and Claude Code do some fun stuff over the last couple weeks. And what I think is the most interesting revelation I've had over the last couple weeks isn't that it could do it. It was that I was having it do it like in the background while I was doing other things. Like I was working and teaching and mentoring and advising students, and I would give it these tasks and then it would go and run and do the thing. And I would come back to it every so often and check on it and be like, oh, okay, cool. Like you're done with that step. Now let me look at it. That's step number one. So here's the thing I was doing. Basically, when we work with students to advise them on their schedule, we do it off of Excel forms right now. So we have these Excel forms that map out all their degrees. And if they want to move classes around, it's cut and paste in this Excel form. So it's like kind of clunky. And then like the bigger clunky issue is the students will lose that Excel form. So they'll meet with you like fall of 25, and then they meet with you again in the fall of 26. And it's like, well, do you have your Excel form? And they're like, no. Why would I have my Excel? And I'm like, because it maps out your degree. Like we already talked about this. Why wouldn't you keep it? So this is a web app that essentially uses their login or uses a login to allow them to have like a digital record of their 4-year plan. And I'm playing around with it. And one of the things that I thought was cool is it turned me into a product manager, not a coder. Like I don't care to be the coder on. Like I don't care to be the developer of the software. What I want to do is I want to manage the product. Like, hey, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want it to look like. This is the way I want you to do all these things. And like I could go back and forth and say to it, you didn't do it right. I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it this other way. But one of the cool things that I've been telling people about is chat helped me write the product requirements document. That product requirements document was fed directly into code. And then the first version of everything was made like off of that. And basically I just told it what I wanted it to be and like what I wanted it to look like and what features I wanted it to have. And it like handled all the other stuff on the background and did it fairly successfully. My one big problem right now, and I realized this over the past 2 days, I didn't realize before. I've been doing all this on the computer. Like, and I looked at it on a mobile version and I was like, oh man, this is garbage, right? Like this is absolute garbage on the phone. So I got to fix that because these students are very much phone students. They're not laptop students. So I got to fix that one. But you learn that stuff as you do testing and as you do QA. So it was fun though. I like playing around with this stuff. I like being a product designer and product manager way more than I want to actually sit down and figure out all of the code in the libraries and all of those things. So
Yeah.
But where are you at on, have you messed around with any of that stuff? I mean, we were just goofing around with Claude before we started the call, but where are you at on that?
Well, my Focus co-host, David Sparks, has released what I consider to be his best field guide to date, which is the Robot Assistant Field Guide.
Okay.
And I've been thinking a lot about his approach to that kind of stuff. So we talk about this on a recent Focused episode. I'll put the link to that in the show notes if people want to dive deeper into this. But I'll just kind of briefly talk about what I think is the brilliant approach that David's taken to this. He's using Cowork in Claude, and he's pointing it at his Obsidian Vault because these are all Markdown files now, and Markdown is great for this sort of stuff. It can be easily read and written. And he's got basically like an employee manual that the robot assistant reads every time it does something. It starts with a Claude.md folder, and then he's got links to the individual skills that he's built. And he's got dozens of these different skills. And so when he says, go do this thing, it actually loads the entire manual for the skill right before it does it. So the result is like exactly what he wants it to look like. And that has got me thinking, to the point where I was actually running around the city last week trying to find a Mac Mini that I could set this up on. And you don't need you could install it on a laptop, but the thing that is interesting to me is having that always running. I'm recording this at the YouTube desk, so it would actually be kind of nice to have a computer that's just stays hooked up here.
Yeah.
So I never have any tech issues because everything just never gets unplugged. And then also, if I get done recording a YouTube video, some of those are like 10 gigs by the time I'm finished with the raw files, it can just upload in the background instead of only when I'm using my computer, basically. So tried to find one. They're sold out till the end of April, like everywhere, even apple.com. So I don't know, maybe they're going to get updated soon. I felt kind of bad spending that much money on an older, like it's last updated 2024. So probably saved me a little bit. But that is really appealing to me to have that always running, because I run all my task and project management out of Obsidian, all my creative projects out of Obsidian. So you add in the dispatch layer with the phone, and you can just like talk to it and then have it do it in the background. I mean, we're living the dream if I can get to that point. So I'm not quite there, but that's kind of what I've been messing with, is setting all that stuff up. So building the skills library and things like that has been a little bit time consuming, but the end result is, I know, because I've kind of seen what David's doing with it, it's going to be really awesome.
Well, and help me understand, I know what skills are. I know that you can grab skills from other people who have developed them. But what is it like to build a skill? Like, I've not gone into that rabbit hole yet of trying to build a skill. Like, is it crazy hard? Is it easy? Is it, like, what's the process like?
Well, so basically the way I did it is I was just having a chat about this is what I wanted to do. And then once you kind of get it where you want it, you've run it a couple times and you're happy with the results, then you can say, okay, turn this into a skill. And it will basically take all the instructions that it's built. And actually, I guess a step before that, because I wanted to see the instructions that it was creating. It's like, okay, turn all this into like I forget what the term was. I was just working on it today. It's like the standard operating procedure, though. It's basically just a markdown file inside of my Obsidian Vault.
Okay.
So I have that, somewhere where I could look that up and I can see like how it's put things together and the specific instructions that it's using to create those results. And then, just turn it into a skill, and then it creates the file for you. And it's like, double click this to install it, into the Claude backend. I'm using Claude on the desktop. I'm not using Claude in the browser. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know the technical part, putting together a skill, but asking it to build it was pretty easy.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Mike. So that's all the follow-up I have. I don't know if you have any other follow-up for us today before we move into actually talking about the book, but if you do.
Yeah, I do. The life theme cohort is going to be kicking off right after this releases, a couple of days after this. So if you want to join us, I would love to have you do that. It's open to all library members. This time around, I am just opening up the library. So all you need to do to join this is sign up for a quarterly library subscription, $147, $49 a month paid quarterly. You'll have access to everything for as long as you're a library member, but if you want to just go through the cohort and then bail, you can do that. $147. That's a pretty inexpensive cohort, and we're going to be going through it live starting April 6th. So April 6th at, I think it's 11 a.m. Central Time is when the first session is, so the library will be open until then. So not a whole lot of time as this episode goes live, but if you want to find out more, you can sign up, library.practicalpkm.com. I've also put together a page dedicated to the life theme cohort. So if you want to see like a promo video, find out a little bit more about what that's all about. Basically a 6-week thing where we work together to dial in your personal mission statement, personal core values, stuff like that. So that is lifetheme.practicalpkm.com. And I'll have links to both of those in the show notes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Are you ready to talk about some genius ideas?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So this book today is Patrick Lencioni's book, The 6 Types of Working Genius. And then like the subtitle is A Better Way to Understand Your Gifts, Your Frustrations, and Your Team. This book is written partially as a fable and then partially as a, here's the model, let's understand the model together. I don't remember exactly how long the book was, 200 and something pages, but I can tell you that, like, for me, this book went really, really fast. I thought it was a really quick read, really kind of engaging read as we worked through it. But it's kind of, I feel like this one, Mike, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but like I feel like this was an accidental book. Like this was not meant to be a book. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, we've got a thing here. We should probably package this into a book and actually share it with the world. Not that somebody sat down and was like, I'm going to write a book about this, about these following things. But what do you think?
Potentially, I could definitely get where you get that feeling. This is the first Patrick Lencioni book that you've read?
It is the first Patrick Lencioni book that I've read. Yes.
Okay. So, Patrick Lencioni has been around for a long time, and I've been a fan of his for a long time. My favorite book that he's written, first one I came in contact with, was The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Okay.
And so I think when I first read that, I was kind of blown away by how different the style was and the fable at the beginning. And then there's just like a short little section at the end where it gets into the mechanics of the concept that he's talking about.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit longer because quite a bit went into this, I guess, assessment. There is an assessment with it, but I think more it's like a framework or a model. Yeah. And the assessment was added on later. So I think maybe there's a little bit, I hear a little bit of that in your description of this. It's like, this is new and fresh and engaging in that particular way. Yep. He does have this sort of like, I just kind of stumbled upon this ho-hum, I'm nobody fancy sort of vibe. Yep. But I think, I don't want to say that's like false pride. That's not what it is, but he could toot his own horn a little bit more. Like he's earned it at this point, in my opinion. I actually think that works a little bit against the whole idea of the 6 types of working genius.
Okay.
And I'll explain why as we go here, because this is not the first resource like this that I've come across, which is figure out how you work and how you work better with other people in your team or organization. So I have some specific context that I can't wait to unpack there with you. But is this the first time you've come across something like this?
I mean, I think the other major one would be the 6 thinking hats, right? We've done that. We've done that one for Bookworm.
Yeah.
And then what is it? Like the ENTJ, those kind of things where you try to figure out your personality type. And then there's the Enneagram. But like, yeah, so it's like those are like the models that come to my mind first and foremost, and I would lump this into as one of those.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll just throw this out here. You can slide it in wherever you want. So if you'd be like, okay, we'll get to that later, that's totally cool. But the first thing I think of when I think of like cohesive teams and figuring out how people work together better is the Kolbe Type A index. I think that's the one. They've got a couple different versions of it. And that one is not, just trying to figure out why I'm such a pain to work with and this is what I landed on and people seem to like it. That one is like a whole bunch of research that's gone into it. And the report that you get is not, I'm looking at my results from this one, this is a 12-page PDF. I think the Kolbe one was something like 40, 50 pages.
Okay.
So it gets a lot more into the nitty gritty. And I think there's a lot of people who would look at that and be like, nah, that's too much. I'm never gonna really even, I'm not going to connect all those dots. That's too much to think about. But, that is kind of, I guess, my preference and also my previous experience with this kind of thing. So when I'm going into Working Genius and coupled with his tone of like, oh, shucks, I just figured this out one day, it makes me feel a little bit like this is, I don't want to say less professional, but maybe like less serious. Okay. That's not the right word either. I'm doing a bad job of describing this, but do you kind of get what I'm?
Yeah. The word that came to mind is it's less intense, right? Like it's less like research driven, intense, background. That's what came to my head.
Yeah. but then there's a like vibe that goes along with that,
Yeah.
where because there's a whole bunch of research that's gone into this, and I don't know, like the Colby uh, Institute. I don't know, like the person who came up with that, her name was Kathy Colby. She wrote a book called The Cognitive Connection, which was actually really good. And I read that when I first started getting interested in the Colby assessment. Then I took the assessment, and the amount of data that gives you is kind of overwhelming if you don't understand how it all works. But there's some real gold in there. And the stuff that is really valuable is because it's been so rigidly tested. That's not the right word either, but like whole bunch of people have gone through this. It's not just, well, I shared this with the people who go to church with me and they seem to like it too. That's not exactly what he says in this book, but that's kind of how it comes across. And I don't think that is doing it any favors.
I completely agree with you. Like, I don't think I'd have ever, come out with this on my own, but since you're bringing it up, it does have that, like, I don't know, less serious I think you said the word serious at one point, but it's like that less serious vibe that like everybody can connect with this. Like, I want to say like layman's, whereas like I come from like the world of academia where it's like, oh, everything is so like, well, we've done all these formal studies and we've published in the top journals and all this stuff. And he's just like, hey, we were sitting around a table and we started talking about this stuff. And after a couple of days of sitting around the table, next thing you know, we had this thing and it resonated with everybody. And it's like very like conversational, if you will. Like
his company is even called the Table Group.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, okay, hold on. Let's get into the book here. Mike, the introduction, I don't have a ton from the introduction. I don't know if you do before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of the fable. But basically, it's just he's going to present 6 types of working genius, and he's going to tell us about how that relates to teaming. It came out of his own struggles or frustrations with work. Other than that, I don't really have a lot from the introduction, so I don't know if there's much you want to add.
Well, the whole thing is based off of 2 truths, he says. So people who utilize their natural God-given talents are more fulfilled and successful than those who don't. And the second one, teams and organizations that help people tap into their God-given talents are much more successful and productive than those who don't. And even those statements, like, they're probably true, but the way that he says them feels a little bit like, I don't want to say anything that can be invalidated. So it's sort of like a watered down version of it where it's just like, oh yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
It kind of bugs me. But I do think that he is right that a lot of people are not fulfilled at work. But also like, and this is the Patrick Lencioni style. So you were never going to get this going into the book, but I feel like those claims could be a little bit punchier if you had some statistics that could back it up.
So that's so funny. I'm intrigued to see how the rest of this conversation goes, because those were perfectly fine for me. I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like, I didn't even think twice about them.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing is like, this is a little bit jarring for me because this is totally what I expect when it comes to Patrick Lencioni, but because he's talking about a genre, that's not even a genre. It's a sub genre, right? He's talking about working styles. And I have this context of the Colby Index A, which I absolutely love. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
So maybe my benefit is I'm not biased by the Colby, and I don't mean biased in a bad way. I just mean like you have that, you're primed by the Colby, and I don't have that in me.
And I will say, like, the Colby has 4 different scales, and it's like quick start, fact finder, implementer. They are not easy to understand.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something where I just want to get everybody in my organization a little bit more aligned, this is probably something like this anyways, is probably something that you should reach for instead, because it's going to be so much more accessible. It's much easier to grok. You're not going to have to spend an entire afternoon just kind of understanding what the different areas mean. But this is a little bit, I'm not sure what the term is. Like I feel like a lot of the things that I knew about Patrick Lencioni and about working styles, like all that stuff that for years, just like, oh yeah, this is what this stuff is. It's all been thrown out the window by this book.
Interesting. I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. Okay. Okay, let's get into the fable. All right, just so you know the style of the fable, if you weren't reading the book with us, the style of the fable is very like short chunks. I don't even know if I'd call them chapters because they didn't even feel like chapters to me. They just felt like short chunks of material. And the real reason that there were headers there were just to kind of section off one section of material into another, into another, into another. Now it follows the story of this fictional character as the character starts their job and then moves through their job and deals with frustration both at work and at home, and then kind of changes jobs and moves into these different roles and then becomes successful, but then as they're successful they're still frustrated. So then magically and miraculously one day this woman asks, why are you the way you are? Basically, it's like, what makes you like this? And then that starts this conversation, and then we are led down this kind of swirly spiral of we get to the 6 working geniuses. That is a very, 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 very high level of what it is, but it's very story. It's very conversational. Like, it is not by any means like a heady book. You're just reading about this guy. It's not a very heady book in terms of it's just very conversational style. It's very like normal person going through this experience. Where I struggled, Mike, is do you think this is like a direct retelling of what he went through in experiencing this and he just gave it a fake name? And if so, why? Like, why do you need to do that? Like, just say, like, this was me and this is what I went through. And here's like a little bit of a biography of, my life. It just felt kind of funny that we were making up Bull, whatever his name was. I
Yep.
forget his last name, but whatever Bull's last name was.
Okay, so this is the Patrick Lencioni fable format, and I both love it and hate it at this point. So the first time I came across it in 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, I really enjoyed the fable, and if I looked at it from the right perspective, I probably could have made the same statement that you just made about obviously he went through this sort of thing. I didn't make that connection when I read that book, but makes perfect sense that he did. So he tells these stories, and there's an element to these stories where it's like nobody talks like that, right? It's not. This is not Red Rising or any of the other fiction books that you're reading. It's a little bit gooberish, and you're just kind of like, there's no way that would happen.
That's a beautiful.
But at the same time, you're just like, I kind of like this.
Gooberish might have been the best description that you could have given that. And I never would have gotten there. That's so true. At times it's like, man, this is kind of cheesy. Like, this is kind of gooberish, right? Like, great word.
And that should not work for a business book, right? A gooberish telling of a tale should not work for a serious business book.
Agreed.
But it kind of does, and it's not just this one. It's literally every book that he's ever written.
Yeah. Yes, and I didn't mind it. Like, I liked it. Like, I thought the fable was good. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, this is an entertaining story. I don't know, Mike, what does that say about me? Like, that might say something about me that like
I think it's fine. Like, the stories are entertaining.
Yeah.
I guess I was a little bit taken aback by it because if you look at all of his other books, it's the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, the 3 Signs of a Miserable Job. They're all stories about things. The 6 Types of Working Genius feels more like your traditional productivity or business type book. I don't know why. I knew it was Patrick Lencioni. I didn't think we were going to get a fable this time around, but we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and maybe it's because if you didn't get the fable, this book would have been 50, 60 pages, right? Of like, here's my model. And it's not really like book worthy. It's like pamphlet, or baby book worthy.
And that's the part that I'm struggling with is the ideas that he's talking about here. I feel like there's some real gold to be mined with some of the stuff that he's talking about here. And I saw some of the things that you were sharing on social media, and it was interesting how much this impacted you. And I think if I hadn't had the experience that I have with not just the Kolbe, but like the Strengths Finder, and like, I love these types of assessments, but none of those assessments can you take in 10 minutes. I forget how many questions there were, but it was like 20,
Yeah,
42
Yep.
questions. Okay. Which I guess 42 questions isn't terrible, but it feels a little bit short. Like you shouldn't be able to get an accurate read on something this complex in just 10 minutes. You should, if you're going to, unpack all the different elements of this, not just how it works for you as an individual, but how do you apply this on your team? How do you put the right people in the right spots? I mean, those are themes that pop up all over the place in the other types of books that we read for Bookworm. It feels like that shouldn't be able to be addressed in 50 pages. There shouldn't be room for a fable if you're going to tackle a topic like this. But he kind of does it real effectively. And I kind of don't know how I feel about that.
Well, and you say that about me, like post on social media. Mike, this book like hit a nail on the head for me. And I don't know why, but it hit a nail on the head for me. And we're going to talk about it once we break into the model. But before we do that, I think the biggest thing to come out of the fable, like the biggest takeaway to come out of the fable, you got a good story, but it was that question of that, like, why are you the way you are? Hold on, I have it bolded.
Yeah.
Why are you like this? Like, that's the actual quote. The quote is, his colleague, I think it's Amy, asks him, why are you like this? And that triggers this whole thing about like, why I need to think about, like, why am I actually like this? Like, I've got a good job, I'm doing well, I've been promoted, I'm, whatever it is. Why am I still like annoyed with myself and annoyed with the job and frustrated? And I think, I don't know if I have anything else major that comes out of the first part of the fable other than that story, right? Do you?
Well, I have one quote that they mentioned
Okay.
in the fable that resonated with me because they talk about the main character. You mentioned his name is Bull, how time flies when I have a marker in my hand.
Oh, yeah.
As he's describing things and drawing them on the whiteboard in front of people. I have experienced that. I love that. When I was working with the digital marketing agency, that was the most fun I had, is when I got everybody on the leadership team together and we actually like talked through the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And I'm up there writing stuff down, and as people are saying it, and I'm summarizing what people are saying, like, oh yeah, that connects to that. I see why that's the way it is. Like that's really, really fun for me. I have a whiteboard in my office right over to the left of where I'm sitting right now. When I was at the co-working space, they have a room with a whiteboard, and every other time I went there, I would reserve that room for the day, just so I could be like working, and then I don't know what I'm thinking about this particular thing. And I grab a marker and just start sketching. Oh, okay, I get it now.
Yep. And my version of that is, you say to me, wouldn't it be cool if we, right? And I go, oh yeah, like let's figure out how to do, like, let's get some ideas down. And like, that's mine. So you'll see where we're going. Let's go into, if you're good with it, let's go into exploring the model. Are you good with exploring the model now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about the fable. Maybe we could just kind of generally encapsulate what happens with it. So, the guy who you mentioned going through the story keeps getting frustrated. Now he's working at this company. He's owning this company. Still feeling frustrated. His wife recognizes that he's frustrated. She's like, you got to figure this out. So one day at work, they just start sketching out all these different things about why he's hard to work with. All the people from the team join in the conversation. They land on these like 3 stages of work, these 6 different gears that we'll talk about in exploring the model. And kind of the big takeaway is that they figure out where everybody on the team fits in terms of their genius. They realize that they are heavily weighted in some areas. In some areas, there's like nobody to do that role.
Yep.
And they're gears because they're supposed to fit together in order for the organization to function efficiently. So as they figure these things out, they get better at what they do. They grow. They're hiring more people. They're trying to make sure that they're hiring people who fit into those other roles and have those other strengths that are currently lacking, instead of just getting people who like are going to reinforce the echo chamber. I mean, there's some really big ideas to unpack there, but the long story short is, everything clicks. They end up becoming much bigger, more successful than they ever were before. This works so well that instead of doing the thing that their company was doing, he's now traveling around telling people how to implement this in their own companies, because everyone wants to know how to do it.
Yep. And like, I think one of the things, as you're describing it to me again, I'm remembering it all just seemed to work too well, right? Like the fable was just too perfect. It was just too beautiful. But we'll see if that comes into style and rating later. I'm not sure if it's going to come into style and rating later, but that was what got me about the fable. All right, let's move on to the actual exploring the model though. Okay, so
All right.
in exploring the model, basically they're looking at the big question of why are you like this, and then how do we get people into these different categories, these different geniuses. That is what they call them. I don't love that they call them geniuses.
Yeah, me either.
I really don't. Like, I wish they would have used a different word. It's catchy, it's clever, okay, all that, but I just don't like it. Like, I think I would have just been much happier with another world. Anyhow, so it's basically allowing you to identify your gifts, or I would say your natural inclination toward different types of work. We need to quickly get into what are those different ones. There's 6 of them. You describe them as
Hey,
gears. Yeah,
real quick,
Yeah.
before you get into the 6 types of working genius, right? It occurs to me that maybe he's borrowing that term genius from somebody else or some other like widely accepted idea or framework in the business world. I can't place it right now, but as you were talking about it, it kind of hit me. I've heard people talk about the zone of genius before. Do you remember who originated that idea?
No idea. No idea.
Okay, but I think that probably is a good description of what these working geniuses are in general. Do you agree?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. That would actually be a coherent train of thought. It's just I have no idea if that's accurate or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we go into the 6 geniuses. So you have the genius of wonder, ability to ponder, speculate, question the state of things, ask questions that provoke answers in action. The genius of invention is about coming up with new ideas and solutions. The genius of discernment is the instinct, intuition, uncanny judgment, your ability to assess an idea without a lot of data or expertise. Galvanizing is the next one, and that's rallying, motivating, or provoking people. The genius of enablement, providing people with support and assistance that they need. And then tenacity is about pushing things across the finish line and completion. At this point, Mike, we have to stop the show, stop talking about the book, and we have to guess each other's geniuses. I'm making us guess each other's geniuses. Okay, so now later on, we're going to find out that he says that you have 2, like, forefront geniuses. You have 2 that I'm blanking on the terms, Mike. Do you remember the terms? You have 2 your geniuses. What are the 2 in the middle?
Yeah.
Competencies?
So there is the working genius, the activities that give you joy, energy, and passion. The working competency, which are activities that we find neither completely miserable nor completely joyful, and which we can do fairly well. And then working frustrations are activities that drain us of our joy and energy, and we usually struggle in.
Okay. So do you want to guess first, or do you want me to guess first?
Oh man, I'll guess. Okay, so you mentioned that you get excited when someone says, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we?" And then you're like, "Yeah, yeah, it would." So I'm guessing that wonder is one of them. I'm gonna guess enablement is another one.
Okay. All right. Now I get to guess, and then we're gonna reveal a tiny little bit of our results.
Okay.
I think invention is one of yours, and I think enablement is one of yours. And what I'm tricked up on is I think you have tenacity too, but I don't know if enablement or tenacity is the winner, right? Like I don't know which one of those would be the winner, but I think invention and then enablement and tenacity are yours. All right. Now, I will tell you mine. My top 2 are invention and discernment.
Invention and discernment.
So coming up with ideas. So when I was describing that to you, I'm not going to sit there and like ponder about the universe like over and extend, which I think is what wonder is, right? It's like that really like kind of ethereal headspace of, I wonder why birds fly, right? Like I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to tell you is like, if you asked me to figure out like, how do we fix that bird's wing? I'm going to come up with ideas all day long about how we fix that bird's wing, right? Like that's the way I'm wired. And then I do think discernment, where it's like, okay, I don't need a ton of data to like come up with fairly good instinct or explanation. Now, I also think that my training as an engineer has helped me with this a lot, right? Like, so how do we
Sure.
solve problems in uncertain circumstances? I've been trained on this for many, many, many years. Okay,
Yeah.
so invention and discernment are mine. What are yours?
So mine are actually discernment and wonder.
We are so wrong. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
that gets to my issue with this assessment
Okay.
because the whole fable is basically them deciding, oh yeah, that's totally me. That's my working genius, right? And the way you were describing, was it invention? Is that the one you were describing
Yeah.
for me? It's like, yeah, absolutely. Like if I had to pick one, invention's probably the one that I would pick.
Yeah.
But that's number 4 for me.
Is it really?
So yeah,
And you told me what did you think mine were? Wonder and what?
wonder and enablement. But that's really just based off of your role as a teacher.
And those
I feel like that's what you're trying to get your kids to do, right? Adults.
I got you. No, you're
classes,
fine. You're fine.
But yeah.
But no, those are my competencies. So you identified both of my competencies, but you didn't identify my geniuses. What did I identify? Any of your competencies?
Yeah. So you said in invention, and then I forget the other one that you said, enablement. That is absolutely last for me.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Do you know my last one? What do you think my last one is?
Well, as I said, I don't necessarily agree with any of these results, but if I had to pick one, let's see.
You won't offend me at all, so don't worry about that if you're worried about that.
Man, so this is a limited pool of experience here, right? I'm going to guess tenacity, though.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Just because it seems like when you're excited about a project, you got no problem doing the work. But if it's not exciting anymore, then you really start to question, why am I doing this? And for good reason, if you don't want to do it anymore, you just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Do you know why this book partially resonates with me so much? Is because there are two things that are my my frustrations. And I'm reading this book going, oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's my frustration. Oh, absolutely. That's my frustration. Like as I'm reading the fable and as he's reading the description of the model, I take the test. Those are absolutely 100% my two low frustration ones. And I have seen, and I can tell you how it has impacted my life and work. Like I've been like, oh, I totally know that. So here's an example of this. I love to write the proposal to get the grant. I like to launch the grant. And then I get bored. Like I get bored with doing the daily grind work of keeping the grant going and finishing out the grant. Like I just think it's boring. Like I don't think that's the interesting thing. And that's the tenacity part. Without a doubt, that's the tenacity part. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like it's fine. Like I'm excited about it, but not that excited. Like I'd rather go get the other grant, like the next grant. And I would have never been able to talk about that or identify that until Lencioni's fable and his model, which I think is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that there is a lot of value in this. I still, man, I don't know how much you want to unpack the specifics of this assessment. I will say that it should come as no surprise to people that I have high requirements for anything that's going to be labeled an assessment.
Yes.
We've talked about that a lot before.
Yeah.
And so this does feel a little bit just thrown together to me. It mentions at the beginning that this whole thing started out of a 4-hour whiteboard session in June 2020. And I don't know when this book was actually published. Do you have the published date?
22, I think.
Okay. See, that's not enough time to really land on a solid assessment process, which if you don't call it an assessment, you don't have the background I do, and you're not hung up on that word, like you probably don't care. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But you couple that with the fact that you look at the results and you go, I would have picked something different. And that is an indication to me that maybe there's a little bit more work to be done with this.
Well, but okay, so interestingly is I wouldn't have picked anything different. Like my results make total sense to me. Like this actually,
Okay.
and I don't feel, because like I've done a bunch of survey development type stuff and all that, and I would say like I don't feel like I gamed the system. Like when I was answering
Sure.
questions, I was not trying to answer to get the answers that I wanted. I was going with my gut instinct on what's my natural answer. What's my natural answer? What's
Me
my
too.
natural answer?
Me too. Yep.
Okay.
That,
So
that's the key. When you take assessments like this, you got to go with your gut.
Yep. But the fact that we have such different experiences lends to your point of like, maybe there needs to be a little more refinement on this in terms of creating the actual assessment. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing that kind of threw me, and I can't say this for sure without looking at how the assessment is put together. But if I recall, there were like 40 questions, which seemed like they mapped very cleanly to a certain number of points for whatever category you're scoring.
Yeah, that would seem right.
But then there were a couple at the end where it's like, given the choice between these two, which one do you gravitate towards? Do you remember those questions?
I don't remember those ones, no.
Maybe that was just my results. Maybe it's just because some scores were really close. But those types of questions at the end felt to me like they were out of place. And I feel like, again, I don't know this without looking at it, but it was kind of like, okay, we've got your results, but now we're having trouble putting these things in order. So we're just going to tack on a couple of questions so we can get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So what is the score for my working genius? What is the score for my working competencies? On one level, this doesn't really matter. Where it does matter is like, where's the line and how do you determine which one falls into which category? If you don't have those scores, I feel you do run the risk of this feels wrong. And I got to tell you, mine feels a little bit wrong. So like discernment, yeah. And wonder, I think, yes, also, but invention does not feel like a number 4, a number 4 genius for me. And then also like the word genius, this is where I really start to have the issue that you're describing, because it's combined with this assessment, right? And you're trying to figure out where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, whatever. Maybe there's some people who are just much better at flowing in and out of these different modes than other people will ever be, no matter how much they try to develop them.
Yeah.
Maybe my working genius of discernment is 1/10 the 4th level discernment that Patrick Lencioni has, in his results. So I think there's like on one level, yeah, you just want to figure out a way to remove the friction when people are working together. But also I feel like there actually probably is a quantitative element to some of this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's kind of reinforcing that to me is a lot of this stuff, the discernment, the wonder, tenacity, invention, maybe not so much. I don't know. I'm like, there's some of these that map real cleanly and some of them that don't. But these are a lot of like emotional intelligence, soft skill type stuff. And those skills you absolutely can develop and improve.
Yeah.
I mean, that family business is a whole process built off of that. I'm actually working with my dad on a individual version of that, which by the time this goes live, people should be able to check it out. So if you're interested in this at all, successprofiler.com. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's a $49 assessment, an actual assessment with 9 million administrations, 40 years of research, right? Not a 4-hour whiteboard session.
Yeah.
And you get a pre-assessment, which shows you your lowest areas. It explains your scores to you. It doesn't just say this is the high one, this is the low one. Okay. And then it assigns all this skill building, and there's a post-assessment at the end so you can document your skill acquisition. That's what I think of when I think of assessment. So I don't want to like downplay this and say this is sort of like a Facebook quiz, but on one level it kind of is. Now it goes way deeper than that, and the stuff that he shares in terms of like how he groups these things together, I think we'll probably talk about that as we get into more of this this model stuff. But like there's the top 3 and then the bottom 3; those are grouped together. The ones on the left, in the middle, and on the right, those are all grouped together. Like he thinks about this stuff on a much higher level than any of the crazy stuff you'll just find for free online. So it's not that. You absolutely should be paying to take this assessment, and then the results that it gives you are valuable. But also I don't know, I guess it's just me. It's not enough for me.
Well, and I totally get that. And I think one of the things that you hit the nail on the head with is it may be because your distance between some of these isn't as large as like mine, where like I seem to clearly fit into these buckets more not cleanly. That doesn't make sense, but it's like more starkly. Like if that makes sense, right? Like I'm more desperate in my groupings, where you might blend the line a little bit more on some of these, and this assessment, this tool breaks down
Yeah.
a little bit.
And that's the type of thing that if you run it with enough
Yep.
people, you will figure out a way to deal with that. That's
Yeah.
what the Colby index does. I forget the term that they have, but basically there's a rare type of person who all of the styles or working styles are basically the same. They're like a chameleon. They can go in and out of whatever is needed in the moment. Those people are super, super valuable. It's like 1% of the population, and they have a label for it.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have that because it just hasn't been around long enough.
Yep.
This episode of Bookworm is brought to you by our friends at Vitally, the AI-powered workspace for customer success managers. Vitaly's purpose-built AI is for scaled customer success. It's there to help you better understand customers, to reduce churn, unlock growth, and always stay a step ahead. Basically, all the things that make you great at your job. Vitally delivers the clarity, automation, and AI-driven insights that your team needs so you can move faster, stay aligned, and drive customer outcomes at scale. Vitally AI surfaces insights from every customer interaction to unlock another level of CS productivity, visibility, and collaboration, which is why Vitally is trusted by more than 600 leading B2B SaaS customer success teams. And how's this for a great offer? Vitally is offering a free pair of AirPods Pro for every Bookworm listener who takes a qualified demo call. So if you're a customer success decision maker, schedule your call by visiting vitally.io/bookworm. That's vitally.io/bookworm and get a free pair of AirPods Pro when you take a qualified demo. Our thanks to Vitally for their support of the Bookworm podcast.
Okay, so hold on. We need to move into the next section because the next section is gonna color this. And here's where I got a little bit confused on kind of the organization of the book or the structure of the book. So Mike, you can maybe correct this pretty quickly. So the table of contents says the context is next, right? Like, and there's this context section, but mine was out of order. I had context first, and then I had the model, and then model and assessment. So I don't know if the table of contents that I'm looking at's wrong or what it was. Could you quick fix that for me?
Yeah, I think we should probably just continue to grab whatever we can from the exploring the model section, because yeah, there's the context next, then the model and assessment, but also from that model and assessment are the 6 types defined, which we already talked about.
Yep.
So we're kind of all over the place at this point.
So if you're following along with the table of contents, just throw that out the window. Like we don't need that. Just hang in there. Okay. We get into this team and mapping. So we've already talked about kind of everything in model and assessment. We've talked about the 6 types of geniuses, the fact that they break down into genius, competency, and frustration. So kind of all of that comes together.
Actually, let's before we get into team stuff, let's talk about the responsive versus disruptive geniuses, and then the phases of work.
Okay, cool. So responsive and disruptive geniuses. Responsive geniuses respond to external stimuli to put it into action. Disruptives they initiate or they provoke change. So you're thinking about like, what's my role on as a genius? Like, am I trying to like be proactive, or am I trying to just kind of respond to these things that are coming to me? And he would say that the 3 responsive geniuses are wonder, discernment, and enablement. So those are the ones that are going to respond to external stimuli. And then the 3 disruptive ones are the invention, galvanizing, and then tenacity. And those are the ones that are going to be the more proactive ones moving forward. And then Mike, I'll let you, if you're willing to, I'll let you do the next one.
Yeah. So then the 3 phases of work, which is like the 2 on the left, the 2 in the middle, and the 2 on the right. The ones on the left are ideation. So that's wonder and invention. Ideation is the part of work associated with identifying needs and proposing solutions. Then the next part is activation, the part of the work where you evaluate the merits of the ideas or the solutions proposed and rally people around the ones worthy of action. That's discernment or galvanizing. And then implementation is the part of the work where you answer the call to action and push through the final stages of completion. And these are enablement and tenacity. Now these, I think, roughly map to the Kolbe stuff. I'm trying to find, I had it open here earlier. I've got my Kolbe results from whenever that was, but it doesn't look like it's open anymore. Give me just 1 second. Okay. The index, like the 4 different skills that they are charting is fact finder, follow through, quick start, and implementer. So you can kind of see how those overlap there. Fact finder is, well, first of all, I'll share my scores. So they're out of 10. Fact finder is 7, follow through is 6, quick start is 3, implementer is 3. So fact finder, before you do anything, you go research the heck out of stuff. We're going to find the best way to do things. Follow through. Okay. That's kind of the maybe that would be implementation, but they actually have an implementer scale. So the follow through is sort of like, we're going to see this through to the end. Say I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow through, make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Quick start is like, hey, we got this idea. Let's go do something with it. Sort of like the invention. And then implementer really is, in this case, it's someone who is like building physical models and things. Like they have the implements in their hands as opposed to just like conceptual thinker sort of a thing. Okay. There's a lot of overlap between these types of things. And so maybe it's just, you pick the flavor that you like the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay. So this is where I was trying to get to is this idea of how are they going to use this, or how have they used this? And I think this is, Mike, where maybe your idea of assessment and like the taking of this is different than what I think they are driving forward at the table group and through Lencioni. So in Lencioni, like they come up with this thing where they make this map, this team map, and they put widget down the center column, which, by the way, did you realize it said widget before it presented widget? Because I didn't. And I was like, oh, how clever is that? It says widget.
I did. It kind of bothers me, to tell you
the
truth.
It all bothers me too, real bad.
It feels very forced, like galvanizing. Who uses the word galvanizing in the workplace? Nobody.
Yep. Like it bothered me. I don't know if I realized it until this image, and I was like, oh, it says widget. Oh man. I was like, daggone it. I was so much happier when it was just like random words that were like not associated in my brain with some acronym. Anyhow, So you got widget going down the center of this thing. And then what you do is you map the people in your organization to those different geniuses. And you say, like, who's in this genius, who's in this genius, who's in this genius. And when it's going to give you a systems look at all the people in your organization, and it's going to help you understand where they are. But you don't just map the geniuses, you also map the frustrations, because what you want to see is like, do we have a lot of people who are either a genius in this area or a frustration in this area? And if we do, essentially what we have is we have an imbalance. And when we have an imbalance, we need to handle this, because our team is not going to function as efficiently as they could if we didn't have this imbalance, or if we were able to balance this out more. And I think this is the driver of this assessment. This is the point of it. This is why you do it. This is why they want to do it this way. It's because you could then take this and you can essentially balance out your team better and overall distribute the genius work among more people and distribute the frustration work among more people. And you can get back to that thing where more of the work that I do is the work that resonates with me and the work that resonates with the gifts that I have, or at least the gifts that the survey tells me that I have. And I think that drives it home, making it different than your Kolbe type A, where your Kolbe type A is I'm really trying to understand like who I am and like me, and like it's trying to normalize it essentially across the population, or like the general, you know what I mean? Like it's a survey or an assessment in the truest form of an assessment, where we're trying to get to normal curves and standardizations and those kind of things. And this is not. This is trying to say, like, what's my team makeup and how do we balance the team better? And like, I really think that's a big difference between what we're trying to do here. And I think that was like kind of, I'm listening to your talk, because I would have never thought this until we had this conversation. I think that's a big point of their work.
Well, I agree. It's a big part of their work. I agree. That's a good perspective to take. That is exactly what the Kolbe is for, though.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you get your breakdown, but then also you literally create the map of the people on your team. I administered the Kolbe as the integrator in our organization. So I got everybody's scores, and you can compare this person to this person, and it will tell you when they're working together, this is likely where the friction is. You can also do it for your entire organization. Be like, we're heavy on fact finders. We got no quick starts.
Do you remember when Kolbe came out? Like how long ago?
It was a long time ago. So I came across it first when I was working with Asian Efficiency, but a lot of the business consultants who do any sort of like team culture work will, back in the day, they would use the Kolbe Type A. Now maybe they use something like the 6 types of working genius, because a lot of it is really just to start the discussion amongst the people on the team. So one of my big takeaways when I was going through the Kolbe Type A is I'm a high fact finder. So my initial, if I am trying to figure out what to do, my initial response is I'm going to go research it. But I remember like comparing that with somebody else on the team who was a high quick start, and we were working together on this project and recognizing that when they don't know what to do, their initial thought is to just try something. And I'm like, whoa. Let's just think about this for a little bit. And it caused friction. So then obviously if you're working with a consultant, they can have you like role play and do all these different types of exercises, so you practice responding to someone who has a contradictory style to you, in a way that they can understand it. You're trying to it's really just empathy, understand it from the other person's perspective. But that is what the Kolbe Type A is for, is like, where is the friction in terms of the people on your team that are working together? Not in terms of, do we have the people with the right skills to do the actual work? It's kind of assumed that you've got competent people at every place in the organization. And then it's just like, okay, so we've got the people with the right skills, but we're still not getting the work done, or we're not getting it done as effectively as we want to. Where are the bottlenecks? A lot of those are emotional energy bottlenecks. And how do we alleviate that sort of stuff? And that's the kind of stuff that I find just completely fascinating. Yeah. So I could dive deep on that and study it all day, every day. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's really just like the personal difference between the Kolbe Type A has been around forever, and there's all this research that's gone into it. And honestly, maybe there is that now for the 6 types of working genius too. I remember when this first kind of came on the scene and people were starting to use this as part of their hiring process. I tend to think if you're going to use something as part of your hiring process, you want something that's battle tested a little bit more. But I do think that the overall point of we got to get complementary people on the team, that's important. So one of the things that, how do I put this delicately? You and I are probably pretty, we have a lot of people in our world who are fairly conservative, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the pushbacks with conservatives is, I don't know how to describe it, like surface level diversity, right? Okay. Diversity just so we can say that we're diverse. Okay. I know a lot of people who like absolutely hate that idea. I think there's a lot of value that comes from getting people with different perspectives and different strengths and different skills, even if they think totally different than me and they would do things totally different than me. That can actually be a strength when you leverage it. And that's kind of his point here. So the point I'm trying to make is, like, if you're going to figure out how to build a diverse team, I think the way you want to look at it is in how people approach the work. Yeah. So like the basis of everything he's talking about in this book is really the key. And there are probably geographical pockets where, everybody is a white guy. So we want an African-American woman on the team just because, like, we got to disrupt this pattern a little bit, and ultimately that'll make us better. But I think you can kind of take that too far. A lot of the online teams that I'm a part of, like, nobody cares what your religious beliefs are. Nobody cares what your skin color is. Nobody cares where you live. It's really just like, how do we ideate better? How do
Yeah.
we think and work together, especially with like, what's the term? Not remote teams, but distributed teams,
Yep.
right? We're all over the world. We're all over the place. The thing that matters is really like when we get together to work on something, how do we communicate? How do we hand stuff off back and forth? That's where the culture work really is important. Man, this is such a big topic. I'm thinking of like Digital Body Language by Erica Dewan, which is all about like, don't make people feel stupid when they're on a Zoom call, and like, how do you communicate effectively? Like that could be a part of it. A lot of like, this could be a part of it. Communication expectations and like how we are actually going to do the work at the organization, and documenting all of that and sticking to the rules that we agree we're going to play by. So everyone kind of knows what to expect. Like that's a part of it. But the whole like larger topic of getting all these people together on a single team and figuring out how you can do more of what really matters, like that's super exciting to me. If I could just, fill in the blank, whatever my dream job would be, I actually would love to be one of those business consultants who shows up and has everybody take the Kolbe, has everybody take the 6 types of working genius. Okay, let's look at all these results and let's analyze this. And you can kind of see the light bulbs going on. I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. Just the other week, Bob, you did this and it really ticked me off. Oh, well, I won't do that anymore. I had no idea.
Yep, exactly. That'd be a beautiful job. Yeah. So, I mean, like I agree with you. They get into this in the next section, which is the working genius and organizational health. So if we want to go back to that other one, feel free to. But where having different people in these different geniuses helps with your organizational health. And one of the ones I want to really dig in on ties into a book that we just recently read, The End of Burnout. And it's this idea of like, if you're in a role where it's hitting something that is a frustration to you, and where I'm less, where I'm less convinced is that widget is the 6. Like, and I don't really know if I even care if widget is the 6. Like that's not the point.
Right.
The point is like, if I'm working in roles or I'm working on parts of projects where it just completely wipes me and I'm doing too much of that in my current role, it makes total sense why I get to the end of the day and I am wiped. Like I'm absolutely exhausted, versus the other day when I get to come in and I get to do one of those roles where like it gives me energy and it brings me joy. And I come in and I'm like, oh yeah, like today flew by. It was like I wasn't even at work. Like I was just having fun and everything was great. And like that assessment alone of like knowing that these 6, or that you can think about it from this perspective of like, okay, I look at my job and I go, what resonates more with me? Okay, according to the survey, right? It's invention and discernment. All right, so now I look at my job every day and I go, am I doing invention and discernment type things? Okay, if I am, can I relate that to, oh, that was actually like a fun day. Like I enjoyed my work that day. And then am I looking at galvanization and tenacity? And it like, was that a good day for me? Or did it feel like a slog? Did I feel like I just got beat up the entire day? And what I can tell you, Mike, is 100%. If it's a galvanization day, I feel terrible at the end of the day. Like me having to herd the troops, me having to get people to like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And this is where I think another really interesting thing comes out of this book. And it's going to be broaden out the word organization. If I think of my family unit as an organization, and I think of what I have to do right now with 4 young children, there is a lot of galvanization. Like there is a lot of like, all right, boys, we're going to clean this house. Like, let's go. Like we're going to get this job done. We're going to get ready for soccer practice. We're going to get ready for whatever. And it's like, and I feel like I'm constantly galvanizing. And Mike, I'm going to tell you, based on the survey, that's a frustration area of mine. And this is why at the end of the day, sometimes I feel absolutely exhausted, right? Like, and it's like, I don't want to feel that way, but this just isn't one of my natural, giftings is to galvanize those galvanize those young kids to do these things. It's also the reason why I'll tell you this. I've known for the longest time I'm not the best at teaching below ninth grade, because like when I
Mm,
say like, hey, let's go do this thing, my expectation is you're going to go do this thing. I'm not going to have to come back every 2 or 3 minutes and be like, hey, are you doing the thing? Are you doing the thing? Are you doing the thing? Are you doing the thing?
yeah.
And it's like, that is a really eye-opening revelatory part of this model that like makes me kind of overlook and not even worry about if widget makes sense, right? Like I'm not even there. I'm going, oh my, I haven't thought about work like that. And I need to start thinking about work like that. And that was a big one for me. Like that was a real eye-opening moment for me when I compared it to work life and organizational health and burnout and those kind of things.
Yeah, and the $1 million question is, so you're tired at the end of the day and you still need to galvanize. So what are you going to do about
Yep,
that?
exactly. Drink some coffee and just get after it, right? Grit and bear it, or grin and bear it, or whatever it is,
Yeah, and that actually leads to the larger point with all of this type of stuff. I feel is like there are some times when you just got to push through and you got to do what needs to be done. And there are certain decisions that you've made where they're non-negotiable. I am a father now, like that. Where there's no going back on that one.
Exactly.
So, you figure out how to make it work. I think the danger is when you're in a workplace where you also have to do that all the time, because that's the one that I feel like we should be willing to renegotiate more frequently than we do. We feel like we're stuck where we are, and at least I know what I'm dealing with, and that's not as scary as the unknown thing that's out there. So if someone is, considering this stuff for the first time and they're trying to decide, what do I actually do about this? I think at the beginning it's nothing. You just start to notice.
Yes.
And you realize, okay, so when this happens, it really kind of grinds my gears and I don't like it. And I have less in the tank when I get home for the things that really matter to me. So I'm going to make a note of that. And if it keeps happening over and over and over again, at some point, be willing to say, I have power, agency, whatever. Like I can choose to find a different work environment. I can choose to find a different way of providing for my family. And I think maybe for a lot of people, it never gets to that point where you're actually that frustrated that you want to quit. But until you start to realize how this stuff works and you weigh that decision, every little thing feels like lemon juice in a paper cut.
It does. Yes.
It's just like, oh, here we go again. I deal with this all the time, even if it's been like 3 months since you actually dealt with this the last time. It feels like it's happening all the time. So recency bias and all the emotional stuff. So I think the approach I would recommend people take is figure out how you're wired, figure out how that fits in with the work environment that you happen to be in. Recognize that no work environment is going to be perfect. It's never going to be completely frictionless, and you're just going to be in your zone of genius all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But then make a conscious decision about whether you want to stay here or not, instead of just being like, well, I don't know what else I'll do, so I guess I just keep going. Like, that's not a good approach, and eventually you'll start to resent the fact that you feel that way. And that's when you make some rash decision and you have a midlife crisis, jump off the deep end.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't have to get to that point. You can kind of make like calculated decisions about this based off of this data that you collect over time if you're paying attention to it.
All right, Mike, do you have anything else before we hit the My Hope and we hit his last comments on the My Hope? Is there anything else about the model that we didn't hit?
Well, I like the description of the genius gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So you can debate whether widget is the right framework, but he kind of pokes the holes. Like, if you have lack of wonder, then the team is failing to take time to step back and ponder what is going on around them. If you have a lack of invention, the team is stuck trying the same approaches again and again to no avail. Lack of discernment. Team finds itself over-relying on data and models to make decisions that are best made using simple judgment. Lack of galvanizing when no one is rallying the troops. And provoking action. The team's potential remains untapped. Lack of enablement, where a team has a sense of frustration because no one's pitching in to help and no one is adequately responding to the pleas of the galvanizer. And then a lack of tenacity is when the team doesn't finish programs and projects. So again, that's helpful to recognize those sorts of things. And if you're in a HR position and you're trying to assemble the best team possible, I think you want to recognize where those holes are. But that's just one data point too. It's not like you have to fill these holes at the expense of everything else. That's the other thing with this type of stuff, is when you get into this sort of thing and you're reading a book like this, it's like, oh, this makes so much sense. This is the missing piece. We're going to redo everything and we're going to do the 6 types of working genius as the first step in the hiring process. Probably not a great idea. There's probably a lot of stuff that you're currently doing that is working really well, but also consider this, when you're making your decision. And then the other thing I've jotted down in my notes is the elevation. Do you remember the GTD definitions of like the elevations of like the different time horizons?
No, I don't remember that.
So I'm going to mess this up probably, but the runway is like your immediate next actions. 5,000 feet is weekly, monthly, whatever. And as you go higher, like the 50,000 foot view is your life as a whole. Okay. So basically different elevations, you're looking at what you need to do in a different time frame. Okay. That's sort of what he's alluding to with these different elevations for the different working geniuses. So he mentions that tenacity is 5,000 feet to the ground level, enablement is 10,000 feet, galvanizing 15,000 feet, discernment 20,000 feet, invention 25,000 feet, and wonder 30,000 feet. So I think these ways of working, or these different perspectives, bring more value when you are considering things from a certain perspective. And I just thought that was interesting. I don't know that there's something tactical that you would actually do with this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's great. The only other one I had coming out of this was he walks you through like the different phases of like a project: brainstorming, decision-making, launch, status review, and problem solving, and like how the different geniuses kind of come into play there, and where like roles are stronger than others, which again, I think, like to your point, is it's very practical. Like if I'm a CEO, or if I'm a chief operating officer or something like that, I look at the team and I'm like, wait, why do we struggle so much in this area? And it gives me a lens. As you're describing this, Mike, I'm thinking to myself, how cool would it be if you and I, or if somebody took all of these models that we like experience in these books, and we just plastered a wall with them, like made a big mural of all these models. That way, like we're just walking through our office and we're like, oh yeah, I remember that model. Oh yeah, I remember that model. I remember that model, right? Like, not that any one model is the one model to rule them all, or the one that's going to save them.
Yeah.
But like, you just remember all of the models, because I'm sure you in your life have probably seen 150 models out of all these books.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing, is like this stuff has to be top of mind in order for it to be of any use whatsoever. So I actually have printed out on my bookshelf back there in one of those like crystal cases, my Colby scores.
Nice.
And when I was working at the digital marketing agency, not everybody did this, but I've seen, I had meetings with people who would do this. They would, where it says Mike at the bottom or Cory at the bottom for your Zoom name, they would actually put their Colby scores, like 7, 6, 3, 3, so that when I'm on a Zoom call with somebody who is a quick start, I can see their scores right there. And I'm like, oh, that's right, you're a quick start. That's why you want to do this thing. And they can see that I'm a fact finder. Oh, that's why you're dragging your feet, and this is so hard to work with you right now. But just recognizing that, then it's like, okay, well, we can compromise now that we know what's going on.
It actually, it helps a ton, doesn't it? Right? Like, it absolutely helps a ton. So I can totally see why you would want to do that. Okay. Let's move to the last part, where basically, and I think it's short, but I think it actually adds a lot of color to the entire book. But the title of it is My Hope for Working Genius. And basically, there are little phrases in here that kind of rounded things out for me. He uses the phrase, reduce their misery. Okay. Like, he's seeing this as like the widget and the geniuses is a way to like really, really reduce the frustrations and the misery that he experienced and like other people might experience. He then ties that into the fact that they've gotten good reviews on people having done the assessment and it actually impacting them in a positive way. And that's cool. Like, I don't think that's just marketing. I think that's actually people are doing this and they're reporting back and going, hey, this really was effective. This really, really worked. So, not to be like rude to you. So, hopefully, you don't take this in the wrong way. The people don't care about their Colby score. You know what they care about? Widget works, right? Like the widget is helping them, and it's making their life less frustrating. In that, he uses like it's a phrase or a combination of words: more peace, less guilt, less judgment, less burnout. Like this is really what we're trying to get at here with this model. And I just I don't know, Mike, like I can see how this is effective. It resonated with me. I can see how it's
Mhm.
effective. I didn't have again, I don't mean this in a negative way. I didn't have the bias of the Colby score because I've never done that before. So it's like this model was like, okay, this checks out. Like this seems to resonate.
Yeah. I hope it sticks for you. My initial thought with the way this is presented, and I think the initial criticism that people will have with this sort of stuff is probably broadly applicable to everything Patrick Lencioni writes
Okay.
about. Is like he's pretty much speaking to leadership teams, right? So if you're a manager or a CEO, this is great. I now know that I am most effective when I am in this particular zone of genius. So everybody else in the organization, you fall in line so I can operate in my zone of genius. Yeah. If you're not at the top of the totem pole, though, what do you do with this?
And if you don't have a champion who is having everybody put their scores at the bottom of their nameplate, what do you do?
And even if you have somebody who is championing it, there's still going to be a little bit of back and forth. And I think there's kind of a built-in power dynamic there, which can maybe rub some people the wrong way. It's like, oh, you're the CEO and your time is technically the most valuable. Like the most dollars per hour that you are working should be the visionary, I would argue, the CEO, right? So from a company perspective, it makes sense that, we should do everything we can so they can be in their zone of genius and do the best work that they can because it's most valuable to the organization. But what if you're down there at the bottom and you just got to roll with the punches and you're like, man, this sucks.
Well, and then
there's nothing I can do about it because we hired too many galvanizers or too many tenacitors.
And then I think about okay, I go into my boss and I have that meeting. I'm like, all right, boss, here's the deal. I am not a galvanizer, and all the tasks you have me doing are galvanizing tasks. And he's like, "What are you talking about? Like what on earth? Yeah. Like, what do you even mean?" Let me tell you about Patrick Lencioni's model, this widget model, blah blah blah. And I can just if the organization hasn't bought in, the application of this gets very very difficult, very very fast. And yes. I don't know what to do with that. I
right.
I'm stuck on what to do with that.
Yeah. Whereas something like the Colby is really your working styles. It's sort of like a personality, but it has nothing to do with the type of work necessarily that's being done. So for example, on the scale of 1 to 10, if you are in the low end, that's kind of like you resist it. The middle end is kind of the middle, like 4 to 6 is average, and then the 7 to 10 is like a strength. So if high fact finder, for example, so others will try to simplify or explain something. I try to strategize. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I try to get as many specifics as possible when I'm putting together that strategy. In my report, it's saying, be precise, rate probabilities, correct errors, define differences, question frequently and thoroughly. Don't generalize, make snap judgments, give yes or no answers, answer off the top of your head, decide without prioritizing reasons. Because that's just the way that I would work. Yeah. So someone says, go do this thing. This is the way that I'm going to approach the work by default. Okay. It doesn't mean that I should do that every single time. There are times when I do have to trust my gut and just, do something, but recognizing that my natural instinct is to go do this. And that's the way that I will do the best work possible is when I'm allowed to flow in that allows me to kind of organize how I'm going to get the work done the way I see best. Yeah. So I don't need somebody's permission in order to function as a fact finder. Like my list of tasks doesn't change at all, but the way that I approach it does. They also talk in this report about like the pyramids of mental energy, they call it. So my highest one is strategize. Okay. So they have like this whole breakdown. 37% of the time I'm strategizing. Doesn't mean I'm never maintaining, I'm never stabilizing, I'm never envisioning, but recognizing that if I'm always functioning as an implementer, when that's my lowest area, I will be exhausted. So that should be about 15% of my time based on my results. Okay. It's okay to do that for a little bit, but if I continue to do that, it's going to wear me out. So I can organize my own stuff and then go talk to my boss or my manager and be like, hey, so the way we're doing this has been really stressful for me. All these galvanizing tasks, I'm not really a galvanizer, right? You're not throwing it back at him. You're saying, this is, this is the problem I see with the way that we're working, and then propose a solution, right? The solution where, I'm not in my zone of genius is really like, hey, jerk, why don't you galvanize for a while? Yeah. Like that's not going to go over very well. It's kind of like, what do you actually do with this if you're not in the right spot?
Yep. All right, Mike, let's move on to action items. I don't know what to do with this model. Like, I don't know what to do with this book. I don't have any action items that jump out at me. I can tell you that, like, I found this book to be very enlightening, but I don't find this book to be enlightening in a way that, like, I'm going to then go do a bunch of things based on it. Like, and I'm going to commit to the fact, again, for a second week in a row, even though I feel bad about it, I don't have any action items coming out of this book. Not even like print this out and put it on the wall, because it's not that complicated. Like I can remember this, like the things that are going to stick are going to stick. I don't need to print this one out and put it on the wall. So Mike, I don't have any action items. I don't know if you do, but you didn't say anything during the show, so I'm going to assume you don't, but
I think the one action item from this book is take the assessment, which that's kind of weird, actually, that it's not included in the book, to be honest. I thought it would be kind of like StrengthsFinder is. The assessment isn't expensive, but the book plus the assessment, it's getting there.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to see that actually be included with the book. But we both completed the only action item we could possibly have.
This goes to, again, the idea that I actually think this is more of a corporate thing, or a company thing, where the company is going to buy a bunch of versions of the assessment. The individual, it's a little less, like, we weren't even worried about that. Like, if the individual wants to take it, that's fine, but we're not targeting that audience, I guess, if you will. Okay. Style and rating. My book, I Start. Mike, I like this book. Like, I mean, I liked it. I liked the fable style. I thought it was easy to read. I thought it was enjoyable reading the fable style. There were some like gooberish, like I'm going to steal your word again. There were some gooberish moments in that thing, but at the same time, like I was there for it. Like it didn't distract me from anything. What was the one guy's name that cracks all the jokes in the fable? I can't remember his name at all, but
I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about though. Like there's the one guy who's like the stereotypical like goofball, and is cracking all the jokes. But I liked it. I liked the model, actually. Like, I thought that was good. Where I'm going to knock it is widget. And I don't mean that in that I actually care about widget, like the acronym widget. I'm going to knock it in what we described earlier is it feels like forced. Like, it feels like that was made up to make a clever acronym or to try to make an acronym. And it just feels like not, I don't think, I want to say disingenuous or like anything like that, because I don't know if it's that aggressive, but it just feels like they were trying too hard. The other one is like when we bucket things in 2 by 2 by 2. So 2 of these are your genius, 2 of them are your competency, 2 of them are your frustration. I wanted to go like, well, why? And they make a comment later in there that holds true with the assessment. That holds true with the assessment is like 2 people, like they tend to resonate 2, 2, 2. But that seems very like nice coincidence, not like we knew this, or we went into it open-minded and it came out 2 by 2 by 2. It was more like there's 2, 2, 2, and oh no, by the way, the data verifies it as well. Like, so again, I might be reading into that too much. I don't know if I am, but the 2x2x2 thing felt a little bit like forced, if you will. So like that's where it's getting a knock for me. Is it's getting a knock for me on the idea of like the actual framework itself, less the book. Like I thought the book was fine. I didn't have any really issues with the book in terms of the structure, in terms of the writing style, in terms of any of that. I thought it communicated effectively. I'm going to knock it fair or unfair. I'm knocking it for the model itself, I think, which I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or not, but I'm going to. And this is going to be a 4-star book for me. So this is a 4-star book. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you now.
All right. Man, the fable that you mentioned, you couldn't remember the people's names for the different characters. That's the danger with the fable approach, because the names don't matter at all. The fable doesn't really matter at all, especially for this particular book. I like the topic. I like the thinking around the framework. As you were describing it, it occurred to me, like with Widget, that feels forced, right? And it, my next thought after I recognize that is how many other places in this approach, the grouping of the ideation versus activation versus implementation, is confirmation bias for the way that we want to work, as opposed to this is what the data is actually telling us. So I don't necessarily think that's wrong though either. So this is the hard part of describing this for me.
Agreed.
It's not my cup of tea. I think that should be clear in terms of the ideal assessment for the way that people work together effectively is something that is much more research-based. And to be honest, I don't even know if it's the Kolbe. That's the one that I'm the most familiar with. There's got to be other stuff out there. But I've seen the results of the Kolbe. It's all based off of the research and someone who can analyze that research and say, this is the way that you're wired. This is the way that they're wired. This is how you navigate this friction. And starting from the basis of, this is the way you're wired based off of the results. I mean, I have questions about how accurate that is. Maybe they're unfounded, but I look at those results and I'm like, I don't know that that's me. And the next thought is, okay, so we're going to now base conversation about how we work together most effectively based off of this assumption. I feel nervous about that, like red flags. So I think this is a cool book and I would recommend this, but I would recommend it from a source of professional curiosity, not as this is the solution to alleviating the friction in our workplace. Okay. I think you go into this, you take the assessment, you understand the ideas here, and you figure out what of this is actually useful. And it's not, this assessment says I'm this way, and so I am going to reorder my life in order to accommodate these results that it's given me. Yeah. That's a wrong approach no matter what assessment or no matter what test you take. So no single assessment is going to give you the blueprint for how you should live your life. But I like to view all of these things. And the reason I like taking all these is I feel like every time I take one, I get a little bit of a new perspective, a new way of thinking about things. For this one, if you were to ask me what that is, I kind of don't know. Yeah. Like looking at let's see, where are those results? I got to find them again. My working geniuses. See, I have trouble even reminding or recalling what they are because they don't make sense to me.
Well, and while you're finding them, like one thing is, I think you had said about taking it and letting it form the context. Unless your organization buys in and everybody does it. I think if your organization buys in and everybody does it, it adds more value to that. But you're right. Like otherwise it's more of like not grain of salt. Like I don't want to say grain of salt, but kind of. I kind of do want to say grain of salt. So I don't know if you found them or not yet, but.
Yeah, I did. My highest ones are wonder and discernment, but not in that order. So I don't know. Actually, the results that they give you on page 8, they've got these different working genius pairings.
Mhm.
I would love more information
Yeah,
on this
me too.
type of
I
stuff.
thought the same thing.
This is what I wish was in the book besides the fable.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So here's how this stuff fits together. Here's examples of how these work together, rather than the fable itself. But also I don't fault him for that because it's Patrick Lencioni. That's his thing. But that's the best version of this for me. I do think it's interesting. I think it's probably the most approachable version of this that I've come across. Like the Colby is not for the faint of
Not
heart.
for the faint of heart.
The best version of that, by the way, that I've come across is actually a program called Unique Ability.
Okay.
It was put together by Dan Sullivan, and there's like a Unique Ability 2.0. It's like this big workbook where actually you take the Colby, it puts in your scores. You take the Strengths Finder, you put in your scores, and you take like the results of these different types of assessments, and then you map out your different strengths across these different assessments. And then there's a whole bunch of like values work that you do on top of that. I think that's like, you really want to apply this to your life. That's the way to do it. But if you're looking for something that's just gonna kind of get you moving in this direction, I think this is a good book. And I think kind of like the reaction that I saw from you on social media, if you've not really considered this sort of stuff before, your initial response is, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's a whole new world. So right person at the right time, like this book could absolutely change your world. I'm going to meet you at the 4 stars. I got some nitpicks with it. Not my ideal assessment, but I did like it. And I think it's pretty good and I would generally recommend it.
Awesome. All right, Mike, let's put the 6 working geniuses on the shelf. What's next?
Next is The Way of Excellence by Brad Stulberg, which I think we will either love or hate. I'm not sure yet.
Yes.
But yeah, that'll be a fun one. What's after that?
After that is How to Live a Meaningful Life Using Design Thinking to Unlock Purpose, Joy, and Flow Every Day. It's by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, which we've read a book of theirs before, Design Your Life, and this is another one in their series. So
I'm going to give you some pre-homework for this, if that's okay.
Oh, dear heaven. Yes, go ahead.
No, this will be easy. But I remember probably a couple months ago at this point, those 2 guys actually appeared on the Nathan Barry show.
Oh, okay.
And they talked about their new book project. And I would encourage you to listen to that episode before we cover that book. And because hearing them on a podcast was very different than reading the book itself. I was really, really impressed. Just spoiler alert. Feel like you could just sit and talk to them about this and they could flow on this topic for probably 3-4 hours without missing a beat.
I just added an action item. So, Mike, you gave me an action item, which is great.
Yay! A non-working geniuses related
listen, it's an action item. So there you go. All right, Mike, do you have any gap books for this break?
I don't. I mean, I hope I will have one that I can come back and say I read this, but yeah, didn't get any additional gap books read.
Yeah, I don't have a gap book, but can I talk about a gap book that I read not on purpose? It was one of those ones that came to me. So it's called The Education Reformation, and it's about like starting new schools. And it just randomly, like somebody was like, hey, you should check this book out. And next thing you know, do you ever get one of those books where you just open it up and then like a day and a half later, you're done with it and you're like, wow, that just happened. That wasn't like, I wasn't expecting to do that. So that was one, The Education Reformation. But all right, Mike, I think that does it for us. We want to thank the Pro Show members. This episode, we talked about Mike going to sponsor games and his experience with sponsor games, which was very fun and made me more jealous than I've been than I was before when I saw his social media posts. But if you're interested in being a Pro Show member, it's a longer ad-free show. The bootleg is released usually like a week or 2 early, right after, as early as we can, basically, as early as we can turn it around. You get a bookworm wallpaper. Mike has generously shared his reading masterclass with us. So that's through Patreon. You can go to bookworm.fm/pro. It's $7 a month. And it just helps us with kind of the back end stuff of keeping the show going. So if you're a Pro Show member, thank you so much for being a Pro Show member. And if you're interested in being one, just check out bookworm.fm/pro.
All right. And if you are reading along with us, pick up The Way of Excellence by Brad Stulberg, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.